Brandywine, and today we're going to be doing the Witch-a-thon wrap-up. And I'm really excited. We're going to go through the books in order of each challenge, and I'm really excited to get to share these with you. So the first book that I read was Rules for Stealing Stars by Corey and Haydu, Haydu. That was for the first challenge, which was to read something that was heartwarming. And I thought this book was going to be heartwarming. It was more heart-wrenching. It follows the story of four sisters. This is the youngest sister, Silly. Her full name's Priscilla, but everyone just calls her Silly. And her two oldest sisters are twins, and then there's a third sister, and then there's her. And they just recently moved back to the home that their mother grew up in. And their mother is struggling with mental illness. She has depression, and I don't even know what other illnesses she has because they don't specifically say. But their mom has temper. She's really, really depressed, slightly violent every once in a while. And she definitely, she's searching for something, but the girls don't know what. And so, every night, she'll go through and she'll open every single closet in the house, and she'll sit in the closet for sometimes up to an hour. And they notice that nights when she does this, she's worse the next day. So they're struggling with that. They're all very unhappy. Their dad is trying, but he's kind of, I don't want to say standoffish, but he's not very involved. Let's put it that way. He's there, but he's not, I don't know. He doesn't know how to handle it either, I guess is the best way to say it. So they're really, really struggling. So when they find out that the closet in the twins' bedroom is magic, they start going there to escape from the reality. And this book follows what happens from that, because it causes other issues and stuff. It is a modern twist on the fairy tale 12 Dancing Princesses, if you're familiar with that fairy tale at all. I didn't even catch it until they mentioned it in this book. And I got really excited because 12 Dancing Princesses is one of my favorite fairy tales. And just really quick, if you don't know what 12 Dancing Princesses is, 12 Dancing Princesses is these 12 princesses were disappearing every night. And their shoes every morning would be completely destroyed. They were dancing shoes, but nobody knew where they were going. They weren't leaving their room, so why were their shoes completely destroyed the next day? And the girls were all exhausted looking. So the king said that he would marry off one of his daughters to anyone who could figure out what was happening. And so all these princes tried, but they kept disappearing too, except the princes never came back once they would disappear. And so this one, I don't remember if he was a prince or if he was a gardener or what, but he pretended he was a gardener at least. And he befriended the youngest princess. And then when he talked to the king and they agreed that he'd try and figure out what was going on, he sat outside their door and he heard them moving around in the middle of the night, and he followed them into their room, and they were going through a secret entrance in their room, which was taking them to a magical world where they would have to cross a lake in a boat, and then they would dance all night. And it turns out all of the missing princes were also in this world. And they would give him, so they knew he was there, but the youngest princess was in love with him. So they tried to give him, I don't know if it was I can't remember if it was a drink or if it was a food. Obviously it changes which version you read. And if he drank or ate whatever this meal was, he would kind of be I don't want to say zombie because he was not, but he would like a vegetable that could still walk and move, I guess. He'd be magicked. That's what it is. He would be magicked so that he would just dance forever and be in this world and not remember anything about the other world. But the youngest princess was in love with him, so of course she stopped him from drinking it or eating it or whatnot. And then that actually ended up breaking the spell. It turned out the princesses were all under a curse. And then he got to marry the youngest princess, and they all lived happily ever after. So this book is a twist on that. They have this magical closet that they're going into to escape reality, and they're coming back the next day completely exhausted. And so they get to follow that adventure. It was really well written. I'm definitely going to keep it on my shelf. At the end, it definitely had that message, be happy with our real world, because our real world is beautiful. And in fact, there's a quote. Well, I don't want to give away because that's actually, I was right at the climax. And so, I liked the message of the book, and I liked that it was a reworking of one of my favorite fairy tales. So I'll definitely be holding on to this one. And then the next book I read was The Impossible Quest: Escape from Wolfhaven Castle. And this was for the second challenge, which was to read a book by candlelight. And so this book, like, as you can see, it's really, really thin. It's like big writing. This is a really, really fast read. It was pretty much like the pilot of a new series. The whole thing revolves around these two, which his mom works in the kitchen. She's the head cook, and her dad is the lord over Wolfhaven Castle. And then he has this really cool wolfhound because his dad used to be a wolf hunter. And I suspect that his dad was in the book, but they like only kind of hint, and I won't know until I read the rest of the books. But and then there's another guy who is a knight in training, who's a squire, and then another girl who's a witch apprentice. Apprentice. Wow, words, easy word, and I can't say it. But and then you can see that unicorn up there, which is actually one of the quests. So the impossible quest is that they have to find a griffin feather, a unicorn's horn, a sea serpent scale, and a dragon's tooth. And then when they get all of those, supposedly they will be able to save their kingdom, because they got invaded, and it's pretty bad news. But yeah, so it reads very much like the pilot episode of a cool series, like a kid's series. And I'm really frustrated because I didn't buy the whole series, so I won't be able to finish the series until I get the rest of those books. But I liked it. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was a nice little change, and especially because I was doing the readathon and I was trying to do one book a day. Like, I was really excited to have a really short book because I definitely finished it in one day. But I thought it was fun. It was just fun. And so I want to read the rest. I'd say, like, if you're able to find it, like, especially if you're able to find the whole series, because they are out of print unless you buy them from this one specific company, then yeah, definitely, like, buy them. Like I said, it's quick and it's fun, and I liked it. So the third book I read was Death Troopers, and I read this for the third challenge, which was to read a horror or spooky book. I was able to read this one in one day as well, and oh my gosh, I was not prepared. So previously, I had read, like, the first half-ish of the book, like 9 years ago, and I remembered it being a little bit creepy, a little bit spooky, but I stopped reading before the virus spread completely. I think I stopped, like, right when they brought the virus to the ship. So basically, it's a prison barge, and it's going through space, and they're trying to get to this moon so they can drop off all the prisoners, and their ship breaks down while they're in hyperdrive, and they come out, and they're next to a battleship, I think it was. A destroyer. They're next to a star destroyer. And star destroyers are humongous. And so they're like, there's got to be parts on the star destroyer that can help us. And so they go into the star destroyer. They see some really creepy stuff. Like, one guy sees some lungs in a tank that are, like, breathing simultaneously. And they still have the tracheas attached. So they, like, all scream at the same time. So really creepy stuff. So it follows two brothers that are prisoners on the barge. It follows the medic who is trying to treat all these people that have this disease. It follows two surprise characters that I won't mention. I did not know they were in this book, so I was really surprised. And it follows like this one guy that's in charge of the guards, I guess. He's like the head guard. And he comes in and out a lot. So I liked it. I thought it was very well written, but beware, it is, like, so gory. Like, as soon as the disease spreads, there's just blood everywhere. There's, like, throw up everywhere, and that's before they all start turning into zombies. So yeah, blood everywhere. I should have known from the fact that there's blood on the cover, but I was not prepared for that much blood. And any of my friends who know me know that I don't do blood well. In fact, I made a comment when I was in high school when we were watching a Tony Hawk video game, and I couldn't watch because every time he fell down, like, blood would smear on the cement. And my friends were like, why can't you have that? And I was like, fake blood is more real than real blood. Yeah, I said that as, like, a senior in high school. But yeah, so I was not prepared for that much blood. So yeah, it's very well written, and if you like Star Wars stories and if you like zombies, then definitely give it a read, but just be prepared for that. So the next book I read was The Picture of Dorian Gray, and I chose this one for the Paranormal Supernatural Challenge. I chose it because he sells his soul to the devil. I had partially read this book, I don't even know how many years back. I got almost halfway through, and then I got distracted with other stuff. This book, it's pretty interesting. I've always been curious about like all the classic monsters, and so I was curious about Dorian Gray. But it is written in like Victorian times, and so if like Victorian writing is not your thing, you might want to avoid it. It took me 3 days to read it, so it really put me far behind on my Witch-a-thon. But like, I don't know, I thought it was okay. I thought he could have cut out a lot. Apparently back in Victorian era, they really like to describe flowers in depth. And usually I'm all for like descriptive stuff, but I was really over it. And then I was surprised because he didn't die the way that I thought he was supposed to die, because like I had already a preconceived notion of who Dorian Gray was and what his story was. And I was curious to see if that preconceived notion, which I got from movies mostly, actually matched what actually happened. And so I thought it was interesting how he went from being like the super like go lucky, like he doesn't look anything like this picture. He's supposed to be like golden haired, blue eyes, super boyish looking. It did bother me that by the time he turned 40, no one had noticed that he hadn't aged in 20 years, but then they finally do reach someone who comments on the fact that he hasn't aged in 20 years. And so I was like, finally somebody noticed, because I was like, dude, if you don't age for 20 years and you're like the most popular person in London society and you're super rich, like people are gonna notice. And the fact that nobody was commenting on it, I was like, what's going on here? But yeah, so I thought it was really interesting. I'm glad that I read it. I will probably never read it again. But I'm glad that I read it at least once. So the next one on the challenge was to read something that had to do with your heritage. And I chose Holes because it takes place in Texas, and my entire one side of my family's from Texas. But I spent so long reading Dorian Gray that I didn't get a chance to read this, so I won't get to tell you guys about it. But the movie's awesome. And then the next challenge was to read with do a buddy read, but I didn't have anyone set up for that, and I ran out of time anyway, so that works out. And then the very last challenge was a group read, and that was The Girl Who Drank the Moon. Because I started so late, I only got to page 89 in this book, so I still don't know what happens, but so far I love this book. Basically, there's this town called the Protectorate, and in this town they believe that there's a witch in the forest, and the only way to placate the witch is to sacrifice a baby every year. And so every year they'll take whoever the youngest person in the village is, which is usually a baby, but I assume sometimes they're older. And they take them into the forest and they leave them in the center of these 5 trees, and then they leave. And they tell everyone that it's to placate the witch, but the elders in the village don't actually believe the witch exists. They just like to keep everyone in fear so they can stay in control of them. And this little girl was left there, and there really is a witch in the woods, but she's not mean, she's not scary, she's not trying to kill them, she doesn't even know why they're leaving children in the woods, she just knows that they are. And so every year when they leave a child in the woods, she comes and she gets the child and she takes it to the other side of the forest where there are the free cities, and along the way, it usually takes like 3 days journey, along the way she'll feed them goat milk, and then when she runs out of goat milk, she feeds them from the stars. And the kids always end up turning like great. They're like super happy. They're super good luck. Families are really excited to get them. She tries to match them to a good family that she adopts them to in the free cities. But this little girl, Luna, she accidentally feeds moonlight. And when you feed moonlight to a child, it magics them. Because the stars are so far away, their magic is diluted, so the children don't get magic. They're just lucky. But when you give a child moonlight, it's super concentrated and they become magicked. So she decides to keep the baby herself and raises it along with the swamp monster and the little tiny dragon up here. And it turns out the forest is like on top of a volcano or something, so Yay. Which I actually just realized that's what the picture is. That's the volcano. I don't know what all these paper cranes are yet because I haven't gotten that far. But I've really been enjoying it so far. And I can't wait to finish it. I'm definitely going to finish it. Just because the Witch-a-thon is over, it doesn't mean I can't finish my books. But yeah, I really enjoyed it so far. They were doing the live thing. They were saying it actually, the live video stream last night, and they were saying it actually gets really dark. So I'll see how that goes. But I'm actually really excited about it. And this book was, like I said in my To Be Read video, this book is the whole reason that I'm even doing the Witch-a-thon. So I'm really looking forward to finishing it. And then after I finish that, I'm going to finish Holes. And then I will have all my books done. I don't know how many pages I read. I'll have to calculate that later. But I was able to finish reading 4 books during the Witch-a-thon, plus a 5th half of a book. So for my first readathon, I was really excited. I think that really went well, and I can't wait to do future readathons. I really enjoyed getting to read like a book a day. Reading it so fast, I feel like I was able to absorb more of the book, because usually like like with Dorian Gray, for instance, the first time I read it, I think I was taking, like, it took me a really long time even to get to halfway, because I kept like taking breaks and doing other stuff because I kept losing interest. And so I kept forgetting things, whereas when I read the books like that fast, I feel like I was still reading at my normal speed. I was just reading them like within a day, and I felt like I was able to retain more of the story and understand more of what was going on, as opposed to like reading it and then forgetting what was going on when I try to go back to it. So yeah, so that was my readathon wrap up. Did you guys get to participate in the Witch-a-thon? And if you did, what books did you read? I can't wait to go and watch all the other videos that are going to be posted for this. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.